Your Worship, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today we're going to hear a poem from one of our most fascinating poets. If Matthew were a stock, I'd say he's one to watch. Matthew Hollett is a writer and visual artist originally from Corner Brook, who now lives in St. John's. In 2018, he received the Coxon Palmer Sparks Creative Writing Award, as well as the Fiddlehead Journal's Ralph Gustafson Prize for Best Poem. His first book, Album Rock, focuses on a photograph from the mid-19th century. Like Matthew's work generally, it is a highly original and intriguing work. It has been described as a lively and insightful work of creative nonfiction and poetry, part art history, part road trip, and part detective story. Matthew's collection of poems about photography and seeing, Optic Nerve, won the 2017 Newfoundland and Labrador Credit Union Fresh Fish Award for Best Manuscript by an Emerging Writer. Eagerly awaited by many of us in the literary community, Optic Nerve is coming out from Brick Books in the spring of 2023. In May of this year, Matthew will be doing a writing residency at that National Seedbed for Artists, the Banff Centre. And also in the spring, he will spend time as writer-in-residence at the A-Frame House of Al Purdy in Ontario, a house preserved and dedicated to the memory of one of Canada's major poets. You can, later this year, hear Matthew read some of his poems on my poetry podcast, Hollett, produced by the radio station CHMR at Memorial University and funded by the Office of Public Engagement at Memorial with cooperation from the City of St. John's. Among his poems on that section of Hollett is one called Wind in St. John's. It's one of the great wind poems of all time in my mind. And we all know the wind in St. John's. Today, Matthew takes you on a ramble along the North Head Trail, bringing to bear his photographer's eye on the scene. Over to you, Matthew.
Hi there, my name is Matthew Hollett. I'm a writer and photographer here in St. John's, and thanks to Mary Dalton for inviting me to read a poem as part of the National Poetry Month series. The poem I'm going to read is from my book Optic Nerve, which will be published about a year from now by Brick Books. It's something I've been working on for years, so it's really gratifying to know that it'll finally be out in the world. My poem is titled North Head Trail. It's about my favorite place in the city, probably one of my favorite places in the world. I hike the trail pretty often. I always start in the Battery and go up the hill. I think that's the best way to do it. And I love seeing whales and icebergs and eagles up there. And I saw sea otters up there for the first time not that long ago. The poem uses the word Gallifalero, which I found in the Dictionary of Newfoundland English. And it's a word that means a jaunt, a rambling walk just for the sake of breaking restraint, sort of a spontaneous stroll, which I tend to do as often as I can. And this poem is a little different than some of my poems in that it was originally written as a song, so it's very lyrical, it uses a lot of rhyme. And I wrote it originally for an RPM challenge project with April White, who did a wonderful job of setting it to music. I'm not a musician, so I'm just going to read it to you as a poem. And I've put together a little video with some photos I've taken on the trail over the years. So enjoy.
North Head Trail. On a day when the waves are unfurling, and the wind curls around the Battery Hotel, and the shadows of clouds are cartwheeling down the side of Signal Hill, oh come for a Gallifalero, we'll walk the North Head Trail. Oh walk with me through the Battery past the apple trees, walking backwards against the wind, to where the houses trail off and the trail begins. Past the crevice where pigeons preen and wish they were lucky as albatrosses, to the cliff where seagulls wheel and scream, drape bedrock with bedsheets of shit and salt, and sometimes sleep, and sometimes dream of Ron Hines singing St. John's Waltz. We'll find a song in the whistle of wind as we walk along, in a plunk in a bucket when a berry drops in the crack and crash of an iceberg collapsing. The hill catches fire in the autumn, with little red leaves that flicker like candles and lick at our sandals like fiery tongues. Wind tumbles them into incandescence, and they glow at the edge of our vision as the sky burns to embers around us. Like a dandelion, the trail bursts up through rock to find the sun, and blooms into a bright, wind-swept horizon. So close your eyes and stick your nose in.
Thank you, Matthew. Next week, in the third of our readings, Alison Dyer visits a Grach and Conf in downtown St. John's.